On today's episode of Proud Product Peeps, I welcome Mike Bernard, CMO at Vendavo. We talk about the importance of humility, vulnerability, and helping to instill confidence in others. Thanks for joining the program, Mike. It's great to see you and great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here.
I reached out to you because, in all honesty, you have been a huge inspiration for this concept of Proud Product Peeps. And what you do is you do a Friday shout out, normally on LinkedIn, and you call out folks that you currently work with or you worked with in the past, and you really talk about the positive things that they've offered and the positivity around that. Would you talk a little bit about why you started that and kind of a little bit more about it if you could?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. It's humbling to hear you say that you were inspired by something I'm doing. And I really appreciate that. To be honest, where it came out of was actually a very dark period here in Minnesota. Everyone remembers when the whole thing with the George Floyd murder happened. And it was especially difficult living in Minnesota during that time. Just like I didn't know what to do with myself. I would, do these calls for work, and I would literally get off the call and just be so overwhelmed with emotion that I would break down in tears, just with how much just pain I felt that our society was in. And that was just one instance of that. There's obviously other things too. And so it was during that time that I said, there's probably something I could do. It's probably small, little, I don't know. And that's when I started doing that. So however many years ago that was, 5-6 years ago. And it sort of came out of that, birthed out of that horrible period in our country. And I said, there's maybe something I can do. And that was the little thing I came up with. And my thought was, it's not a big deal. It doesn't take a ton of time. But if I'm consistent with it, I do it over time, and I'm genuine in the way that I show appreciation for people and try to encourage them and bring a little positivity to their day, I think over the course of weeks and months and years, it can actually have a pretty big impact.
I mean, I think positive words to someone about what they offer, I don't think that there could be anything more valuable and important. So I appreciate reading those, and I've always been, enamored by the fact that you're doing it. And with that, I actually reached out to a colleague that we had that I asked if they could do something and reciprocate positive words about you, Mr. Mike.
Oh, no.
So here we go. Mike is a leader who always has your back. He shines light on your strengths and draws out even more greatness than you realized you had in yourself. He builds connections easily and makes everyone feel like they play a part of something bigger. So that was from Morgan Short, who we've both worked with. And there was more in there, and I'll send you the full thing because I think it was powerful and awesome, but wanted to get your reaction to that.
Oh my gosh, you spring that on me. That's fantastic. I love that. Oh, it just warms my heart. That's amazing, that there are folks out there like Morgan and hopefully others. Actually, I've heard from some others as well that see just something like putting a little post on LinkedIn and how much that can change someone's day. And so I really do appreciate that. Thank you for springing that on me here and getting me all emotional in the process. So that was fun.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I think you deserve it after, years and years of saying positive things about others. Not that there wasn't a post about you, something positive, but I, wanted to ask Morgan directly if she could say something, and she jumped right at it and I think responded within 30 seconds. So that was great. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about your early career, because I think there was a pivotal moment where you were selected as part of a leadership program run by St. Paul Chamber of Commerce. And I'm curious about, how much a boost of confidence helps not only early in the career, but later. But can you talk a little bit about that point in your career and kind of how it helped you at that point, but even until now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a program here in the Twin Cities put on by the St. Paul Chamber of Commerce, and it's for organizations that are based in St. Paul, obviously, because of the chamber. And it's kind of a leadership development program. And at the time, I was working for a software company called Granicus. They're still here in the Twin Cities. They've gotten much bigger since I left, but they still have a presence here in St. Paul. And as a member of the chamber, as a local business kind of thing, we got to every year send two people through this program. And I was young in my career. I was doing demand gen and marketing ops for the organization, and I was selected by the leadership team at that point to do this. And it was tremendously humbling, and I was extremely grateful that I got to do it. And basically, what it was is we brought a whole bunch of developing leaders from different businesses, law firms, and some of the local casinos, and construction type businesses, like all over.
Mm.
And we got together, and it was a year long kind of intensive course where you had monthly meetings. There was homework you had to do. There was a service project at the end. And I got to meet a lot of amazing people who are doing really great stuff now. And I just love celebrating them all these years later still. But to your point, it was a great experience in terms of the organization recognizing something in me that said I was worthy to be the nominee to do that for that particular year. And it did give me a boost of confidence. And I think it also, gave me a little bit more exposure to the executive team at the time. Somebody put my name forward. I don't even know who it was, but somebody put my name forward. But it gave me more interaction with our C-suite. And I think that process there kind of helped me have the courage to kind of say, all right, maybe I am ready for that next job. Maybe I am ready to take on a leadership role where I'm managing people rather than being an individual contributor. And I think you're right. It did sort of help springboard my career to where I am today.
Yeah, confidence, courage. I mean, I think those are two great things. And again, connected to your Friday post, I think I've been thinking a lot lately about the importance of confidence. Not only confidence that you can, have in yourself about what you're doing. How do you gain confidence? Either other folks tell you about things, or you identify that you succeeded in different tasks and create different goals. But I also think as the leader, and the leader that you are, how important it is, and how much are you aware of the need to instill confidence in people. When people have confidence, they make better decisions. They aren't looking over their shoulder. They have, just the general feel that they can do that role, that job, that task. How much do you put into realizing the importance of instilling confidence with regularity with your team?
Yeah. I think it comes out in two ways, at least for me.
Only two. Can only be two in the
two that
universe.
come to mind. There's maybe others. I don't know. The two that come to mind. First of all, I think confidence and coupled with humility allows you to go to people and say, "I'm sorry, I messed up. Like that was not that. I could have done better. This is just exactly happened yesterday. Like there was I was chatting with one of our finance people, and I was like kind of frustrated with, they were pushing back on some things, and I was like, man, I thought we were supposed to be partners in this thing. What the heck? And then the next day I realized, that was maybe not the most helpful thing to sort of insinuate that they weren't being good partners, because they were being good partners. They were putting the interests of the business first, and they were kind of challenging me and making sure that my numbers matched and we're moving in the right direction. That is the right thing that they should be doing. And so I went back and I said, hey, I'm sorry. Like that was not a great reaction. I apologize. I want to be partners with the finance team, and you guys are actually really helpful. And I just, so the ability to kind of say as a leader, like sometimes I'm human and I mess it up. And I think people can appreciate that. And, when you get in situations where folks are not able to admit, sometimes you mess up, sometimes you got to ask for forgiveness, like that can get really toxic really quickly. The second thing is when you have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, and you feel like, hey, I've got the right path going here, and we got the data to back it up, and it allows you to go to others on your team and say, hey, these three things are really awesome, but this over here, we need to get better. And here's some ideas on how we can do that. And so it allows you to help with those corrective actions in a way that is kind, and it preserves people's dignity, but allows them to get better in that as well. Because maybe I've gone down this road longer than they have, or I see maybe a different perspective just given the role I have. And so helping them, shape and refine and get better at what they do, I think that confidence really helps to do that in a way that is productive and encouraging rather than tearing people down.
I love that, and I think it leads perfectly into the concept and topic of this podcast of what makes you proud. I mean, I think you mentioned a few things of struggle with general struggle that people have with humility, being vulnerable, fear of judgment, rejection, and all of that. And so, if you're reliant upon other people identifying your successes, it makes it kind of difficult because you're in your own head. But for yourself, what can you identify as a thing or things that have made you the most proud in your career?
Yeah. Oh boy. I thought about this, and first, I'm a Midwestern guy, right? So the answer you're supposed to give is like, I'm really proud of my kids and my wife. She's amazing, and she's a teacher, and she does so much great work, and all those things are true. So it's very un-Midwesterny to talk about yourself. But as I thought about it, I think I'm most proud of being able to make people feel heard, help them feel understood, included, and appreciated, and that their work is bringing value to what we're doing. Like I'm really proud of that when I sit down and think about it and get past all of my Midwestern reservations there. Like if as a leader you can help people feel like they have a voice and that their voice is being taken into consideration and making a change for the better, I think that's a really good place to be.
Did you come up with this before you heard the quote from Morgan? Because she said the exact same thing. Like, how amazing is that?
I mean, I literally just I can't. As we were talking about this and what we would talk about today, I scribbled down some notes the other day, and so you sprung the Morgan thing on me this morning, and so yeah, it's great to hear from someone like Morgan who reinforces something that I had already been thinking about.
I mean, she says, you draw out even more greatness than you realize you had in yourself, and makes everyone feel like playing a part of something bigger. I mean, that's exactly what you said, and you literally did not know that quote was coming or heard about it. And I think that's perfect alignment. I think, can you give some examples of, recently where you have helped to make sure that someone feels heard or that they feel a part of the bigger story, or they feel appreciated?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the spirit of this podcast, as you know, product marketing reports into me. And sometimes there can be kind of tension between product marketing and the product organization, especially if product is different and product marketing is on the marketing team. You and I have worked together before and we had a great working relationship, but sometimes there can just be a disconnect there. And we recently had that. We actually kind of launched a product that in hindsight wasn't quite ready. We rolled it back, we packaged it together with another product. It's going to be so much better now as a one rather than two. But working through that, there's a lot of differences of opinions and a lot of emotion that comes up from everyone involved because people put their hard work into this thing. We've kind of launched it, and then we had to take a look and say, at the end of the day, we need to pivot and make a change. And that can get people kind of riled up, right? And so, my team was getting kind of frustrated with this whole process. They'd put a ton of work into getting ready for this product launch. You're a product guy, you know how much work goes into a product launch. It's a ton, right? And then we had to pivot. And so, first of all, just letting them kind of air out what they were thinking, what they were frustrated with, and to say like, yeah, I get it. Like, that was a lot of work, and now we got to change. And it's not all lost, but some of it is kind of going by the wayside. And then through that, just say like, look, here's these 5 or 6 things that are really awesome, and they're still useful, and we can make it work with that. But just know at the end of the day, like this is going to be better for our customers, and it's going to bring them a lot more value, and ultimately that's better for our company. So helping to kind of hear them out, identify the things that are still working, and then being able to point to the broader goal, the end goal, and help refocus that attention to be like, yeah, this stinks right now. But at the end of the day, we're putting something out there that's better for our customers, which makes them more happy, which ultimately makes the company more successful. So that's kind of like a recent example that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I firmly believe everybody has an opinion. It's like, how comfortable are they with sharing it? And everybody has some type of agenda for that meeting or that project. How willing are they to actually express it? And that's, to me, the job of a leader, is to make them feel comfortable in a setting where they might not have the same tenure experience as somebody else, to be able to express those. And I think the example of product marketing and product management is amazing, right? And I think that there are, organizations where it's product marketing as a part of product,
Yeah.
and then there's marketing product where it's a part of marketing. And I think that when it's the latter, it does cause stress on both sides. I mean, each of the product management teams that I've led, the immediate reaction is product marketing isn't doing what they should be doing. And then when you ask, what are they supposed to be doing? It's different than what product marketing's charter normally is. And I think having leaders to help cross that over, help articulate the charters, help get to a point of, it's not just about a particular deal, it's not just about the launch process, there is a marketing element to it. You touched on it a little bit, but would you say that that's, even more of a potential tenuous relationship than even with sales or general marketing? And that one, relationship between product marketing and product management has to be right, or it makes it difficult. Would you subscribe to that?
Yeah, the only thing I was maybe not more difficult. I think anytime you have like different organizations within the broader company, there can be silos that develop, and hopefully you're working every day to kind of tear them down and get people aligned. And as marketers, we interact obviously all the time with the sales team. Those are our primary customers, but we interact almost as much with the product team. It's maybe just not as visible to the rest of the organization. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes there's just like differences of expectations. And that's why having kind of a really well defined process that has like stage gating in it, so we can all get together and say, yep, nope, we're all in agreement. That's good. Move on to the next step. And then to recognize, at least I'm going to put my plug in for marketers here, like we want to make sure that the stuff the product team and the engineering team is building is a slam dunk and a home run and people love it. And it's really great. But we need time to do that. So when it's like, oh, hey, we're rolling a new thing out in a month, we're like, whoa, easy. Like we can, we'll get the website updated in a month, but that's about it. Like you've just eliminated all kinds of options that we had we had more time. And so I think sometimes it's just you get kind of myopic in your focus of, I got to get my job done. And you don't realize that there's other jobs that need to happen in order to support the work that you're doing. And sometimes those things require time because it just like takes time to get stuff done. Or there's other considerations. Like, for example, the product people aren't always thinking about the analyst relations community out there, right? And the product marketing people might be like, hey, we've got an evaluation with Gartner coming up. It'd been nice to know that a little bit longer so we could get prepped for that. That's not necessarily the product department remit. There's other examples like that too. And so helping people work together and figure out, hey, we're all rowing in the same direction. We all want the same thing. Let's make sure we can, move forward and get stuff done and not be at each other's throats all the time.
Yeah, I think you're always great at communication and expectations. I mean, I think that's what's difficult, is that regardless of the product people or anybody in an organization, they show up to a meeting, they express what they want. And if there's no reciprocation to say, hey, we can't do this, we can do this, we can't do this, everybody just automatically expects that it's going to get done because there is no pushback. And when there's no pushback, everything is expected, which is crazy, right? But like you were really strong with the communication and setting expectations. So I always appreciated that. And then as the product guy, that I've been a part of organizations where the product does X, but you need to market it as Y, and there's a huge gap in between X and Y. And to me, I've always felt the importance of saying, hey, we need to make sure that we're keeping our hands on the rail. We need to articulate to you as product marketing exactly what it does, not the future adjusted version of it. And I think that if you have the true view of capabilities, then you can then understand competitive, you can understand pricing, you can understand all those different aspects. But have you, what types of organizations have you been in where is it X is different than Y, or are you, usually good at getting the actual things that the product does today?
It varies. It varies, right? Obviously, when I was working with you, it was all panacea and sunshine and roses. But um, no, I think to further your point there, sometimes the organization needs to sell ahead of where the product is. So, like for right now, my current company, we've got kind of a 12 to 18-month sales cycle because it's really enterprise grade stuff. And so if I know a lead that my team brings in today is not going to close until next year, there is a window there where we can kind of make adjustments because we know what's coming. And so that means the product roadmap needs to be kind of locked in, maybe earlier than the product team would like it to be, because they know things are going to come up, sprints are going to change, whatever. And so they're maybe not as, willing to lock in that long-term roadmap. But I know in my head, like, I have to have something to prepare the sales team with now, so that when we have those conversations, and we're having those conversations over a series of months, they know what to say, they know how to position, they've got all the materials they need to sell something, because it's a year from now when a contract's going to get signed. And
Yeah.
so that's where I think, continue to have that dialogue and just be really firm about, like, I have these needs or these expectations, but here's the reason why I have them. I think that gets lost a lot. The why part, why do I need this 6 months in advance, or 120 days in advance? Well, there's a reason why. Let me tell you that. And I
Yeah.
think if you forget that, then you can get people just getting frustrated all the time. But I think if you give them the why, they're like, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. I get that now. And then, like, re-informing the why over and over and over. I heard this quote one time that strategy is kind of like a bucket filled with water, and there's a hole in the bucket and it drips out. And just when you think you've, like, communicated the strategy enough, guess what? It's time to fill the bucket up back again, and remind folks why we're doing stuff, and the direction that we're going in.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I kind of had a flashback of my own experiences as I was asking you the question when I was in pre-sales, worked for a business that the CTO would basically explain what the product was, the foundation, here's what it is, and but the foundation didn't exist, for instance. So we were going in and pre-sales and putting the house on top of foundation, and then realizing, oh my gosh, that doesn't exist. And that's where I started realizing, like, we need to have a pure understanding of legitimately what it does, because everybody's going to message and figure out how to add a little bit of extra, spin or value on top of it. And if you're already starting off and thinking that the foundation was there in this, metaphor, you're going to be so far off base, right? And I think as a product marketer, that's why I think the importance of, like, I would always remember having conversations with you and our CMO and saying, this is what it does. Let's figure out how we articulate that versus I didn't want you to assume it did something it didn't, because then we would be off on a different tangent. We wouldn't have good competitive analysis. Our win-loss would be essentially off because we would just have this view that was inherently wrong.
Yeah, or the worst case scenario where you just let that we assume this is what it does thing run wild, and then before you know it, the customer's getting told something that is not accurate at all, and then they're ticked off, and then you're playing the whole, oh, we got to get them happy kind of thing. And obviously, in at least in SaaS companies that you and I are familiar with, churn kills you. Churn kills the company, right? And so if you want to get off on a good foot right out of the gate and have people happy, rather than having to go and rescue situations, and then because someone was told something that was just not true at all.
Yeah. The whole assume thing, definitely the old adage is right. It, makes an ass out of you and Cooper, my son. No, ass out of you and me. That's how it goes. Cooper, that's a different story. But no, I always found this, relationship between product and product marketing always super interesting. And you as a, super strong leader, it was always insightful and great to see how you were really operating it. I ended up taking over product marketing. I don't know if you know this. I when I went to Episerver, I took over product marketing I hadn't run product marketing. I'm like, this is going to be easy. Like, because I came from a sales,
Yeah.
commercialization side, and I always knew what product marketing wasn't giving me as the pre-sales leader. And I was like, okay, this is what we need to do. And then it was like, oh my gosh, to your point, the analysts, the macro, how do we impact the broadest number of opportunities and all of that stuff? And you can't just create decks after decks for individual opportunities. And I was like, okay, this is a very interesting way. And I see where the difficulty and where the opportunity is now.
Yeah, and if you remember, I came into the organization, and you and others were like, "Hey, Mike, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I think I'd like to take product marketing over." And you're like, "Please." Here." So I appreciate you giving me your baby.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Well, with that, I wanted to introduce a new segment where I'm going to ask you true and false questions about Minneapolis. That's where you're from. That's where you live, and wanted to see if you could guess these, whether they're true or false. Are you ready?
I am ready, but I want to clarify because I live in St. Paul, not Minneapolis, and those, while they are the Twin Cities, you're fighting words there, Capulet and Montecute kind of thing. But I'll do my best.
True. As a guy who mainly thinks of cities as the airports, and the airport is MSP, to me, it's just all blended into one.
All right, let's do it.
All right. True or false? There are more golfers per capita in Minneapolis
Then there needs to be a
than
then.
anywhere else in the US.
That seems false to me, just given our very short golfing season here. But the way you're asking it makes me want to say true. So I'm going to go with my initial of false.
It is true.
Oh,
All right. Oh for 1. Mall of America is so big, it has its own zip code. True or false?
it does not.
It does.
No, it does not. It has a
It does.
PO box, maybe, but not its own zip code. It's
It has
well
its
within the
own
city of Bloomington.
it has its own zip code.
All right, all right. It
All
is big,
right.
though. It is big, and it's very fun to go and walk around. There's an amusement park inside of it.
I have been there once, and that was one of the most amazing places I've ever seen. And yes, we were visiting Best Buy or United Healthcare or one of those, and we went to Mall America before the meeting. All right, next one. Even though you're disputing it, so you're 0 for 1.5, let's say. Minneapolis was named because mini means small, polis means city, so small city.
That is true.
That is wrong. It's derived from the Dakota word water, water city.
Water City. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yes. All right. Everybody knows Prince
Mhm.
is from Minneapolis, right?
Yep. Yep.
But did you also know that Brad Pitt and Claire Danes, famous actors, are from Minneapolis too? True or false?
No, they are not from Minnesota.
Correct. You finally got one right. Brad Pitt's from Oklahoma and Claire Danes is from New York City. All right, last question.
Fun fact, I did go to high school with Sean William Scott. You maybe remember him from the American Pie movies. So he is from Minnesota.
Oh, nice.
Maybe not that level, but we'll take
I'm
it.
glad I didn't ask that because you would have definitely known that one. All right, last question. The city skyway system that connects all the buildings in Minneapolis is the largest continuous network in the world. True or false?
I know we invented them, but I'm going to go true on that.
True. So you got basically, let's say, half of them right. The other two you should have gotten, but you didn't. And then we're disputing the fifth.
The golf one kind of threw me there. It's cold here sometimes, and so we don't have a lot of golfing in the middle of winter. But we do have a lot of people who love golf, so I guess it makes sense.
Yes. I just spoke to Steve Schaefer the other day. He's one of those folks that loves
Those folks who
golf.
love golf.
Yes. All right. Before we close it out, I think for my own sake and because I can be selfish on this, what is your favorite book or TV show that you've read or seen
Yeah,
in the last year?
good question. I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest, and not kind of like in a smug kind of, I don't watch a lot of TV. I just don't. But I recently finished up the last season of Umbrella Academy, which is amazing and weird and strange and awesome all at the same time. So if you haven't watched Umbrella Academy, do that. I'm just finishing books. I read a lot of books, a lot of fiction. I used to read nonfiction, and then I just don't want to do that anymore. So fiction, I'm reading Brian Freeman's latest book. So that one's really good. And then just finished up right before that, a book by Alex Finley called What Have We Done, which is great if you like kind of like suspense stuff. Brian Freeman's book, Break Every Rule. You should read everything Brian Freeman puts out because he's amazing.
Wonderful. I'm more of a brown bear book. Still remember that from reading to my kids.
Classic,
And
man.
classic. Yeah. I mean, when I need to fall asleep, brown bear, brown bear. I have it on audiobook too. So that's amazing. Yes. All right, Mike, I really appreciate it. It was great catching up with you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks so much.